Evening. You are welcome in the 120th episode of Zoology classes organized by Society of Career Technology and Jan Vikas Mahasabha. Today we will talk about brief introduction of the endocrine concept and the master gland, first important endocrine gland, the pituitary. The concept of endocrine started in 1849 by A.H. Barthold. H. Barthold performed a very interesting experiment. He took male cockerel bird and surgically removed its testes. After 2-3 weeks, he observed that the male comb present on the top of the head gradually disappeared. In the second experiment, he took another male cockerel bird, took out its testes, crushed, homogenized and filtered, and then filled into an injection syringe, injected into the first bird. And in the bird, again the male comb developed. What does it mean? Earlier the concept was that testes and ovaries are only concerned with development of sperm and ova. But from this experiment, the idea developed that along with developing sperm and ovum, the testes and ovaries are also concerned with some other body characters. For example, here the development of male comb in the male cockerel bird. In 1855, Edison discovered a relationship between deficiency of adrenal gland and development of a disease called Addison's disease. In 1889, two very interesting experiments were conducted. Brown-Sequard, a person at the age of 70 years, took out a dog testis, crushed, homogenized and filtered, filled in an injection syringe, and took a intramuscular injection of that to himself. And surprisingly, after taking the injection of dog testis extract, Brown-Sequard felt an increased desire of sex. In the 1889 itself, two Russian scientists, von Mering and Minkowski, they were also having a pet dog which was very affectionate to them. It developed some stomach ache and it was not improving after giving medicine also. Then they just anesthetized that dog, operated it, and observed that there was a duodenal ulcer. So they dissected the part of duodenal ulcer, removed it, and again stitched the dog, and observed it for a few days. After a few days, they observed that the place where that dog was urinating, there was some white deposition, and a row of ants was going there and returning there. He took out that white deposition, took a test tube and tested it with Benedict's reagent, and it gave a positive result. It was glucose. Earlier they could not understand it, but later on they realized that when they removed the duodenal ulcer portion, pancreas was also located in between, and that pancreas was also removed. Due to deficiency of that pancreas, this thing, that passing of glucose in urine, was apparent. It means there is a relationship in between loss of pancreas and passing of glucose in urine. In 1902, Bayliss and Starling performed some very interesting experiment again on dog. Earlier the notion was that when the food reaches into stomach, then and then only gastric juice is secreted. But they objected on this hypothesis and tried to investigate it. They just operated the dog in such a way that the mouth, pharynx, esophagus, and the connection between esophagus and stomach was cut, and the esophagus was attached just at the neck surface. So whatever it was eating, that was coming out and not reaching into the stomach. In the stomach, they inserted a catheter, very fine small tube attached with a test tube. And when the food was given, the food did not reach the stomach. Even then, gastric juice was released into the test tube. What does it mean? It means that contact of food with the stomach wall was not essential for secretion of gastric juice. So how the message was being conveyed? Either it was through the nerve fiber or through the blood vessel. In the second experiment, they cut the nerve fiber also, again fed, even then the gastric juice was secreted. In the third set of experiment, they just cut the blood vessel supplying to the stomach wall, again fed the food. This time gastric juice was not secreted. It means the food is going to come in this stomach. This message was being conveyed through the blood. And this gave the concept that in our body, some messages are also conveyed by the agency of blood. In the second experiment, they just cut the connection between stomach and small intestine. Again the food reached up to stomach and then came out. And then catheter was attached with the small intestine. And then in small intestine, some digestive juices were secreted which contained secretin hormone. So secretin hormone was the first hormone discovered by Bayliss and Starling in 1902. So this way the concept developed that by an invagination of epithelium in our body, outermost layer, suppose you just insert a finger in a balloon, some part of balloon is just invaginated. Similarly here also in the epithelium, some epithelial cells invaginated and then form a gland. There were two situations: either the duct remained present and the secretions were carried through this duct to the surface, which was called exocrine. There was another case where the connecting duct was lost and the secretion was released into the blood, and by the blood it was conveyed to different body parts. This way it was called endocrine. Now let us come to different endocrine glands one by one. The first and foremost important endocrine gland is the pituitary or hypophysis. It was discovered in 17th century by a Dr. Galen. When he was dissecting a cadaver, he observed a pea-sized structure just below the diencephalon part of the brain and just above the nasal cavity. As it was present above the nasal cavity, he thought that perhaps this structure is related with nasal secretion during condition of cough and cold. In Greek language, pituita word means nasal secretion, so he gave the name pituitary to this gland. It is present just below the diencephalon part of the brain, which is called hypothalamus. And just below the brain, we have sphenoid bone. And in this sphenoid bone, a cup-like cavity is found called sella turcica. The pituitary gland is located in this sela turcica cup-like cavity, very similar to a hanging milk or curd pot kept in villages from the rooftop by a rope network. In lower animals, fishes, amphibians and reptiles, the pituitary is made up of 3 lobes: anterior lobe, posterior lobe and a middle lobe. In birds and mammals, there is no middle lobe, and birds and mammals, the pituitary contains only an anterior lobe and a posterior lobe. Although in our pituitary there is no middle lobe, just a scar is present, even then the hormone of middle lobe called MSH or intermediate melanocyte stimulating hormone is secreted from some cells of anterior pituitary. Now this MSH or melanocyte stimulating hormone is responsible for color change of the skin during different environmental conditions. For example, you might have seen a girgit or calotes when it comes in sunny days, then the skin becomes light colored, and when it goes into a shadow area, the skin becomes darker. So this type of color change in frog, lizard, etc. is done by MSH or melanocyte stimulating hormone. Here, in the cells present in the skin, they contain 2 types of granules. One, the melanophores, and second, iridophores. Iridophores are glass-like, lens-like structures which reflect the light. So there are 2 conditions. When the iridophores are present at the body cell surface, melanophores are present just above the nucleus, these cells appear light colored and skin appears light. By the action of MSH, what happens? These melanophore granules become dispersed just below the cell membrane, and the iridophore granules become accumulated just around the nuclear membrane. So the skin becomes dark colored. Just opposite action is done by melatonin hormone of pineal gland, in which it changes a dark skin into a light skin. Now let us come to the hormones of the posterior lobe first and then anterior lobe. The 2 hormones of posterior lobe, they are not manufactured in the posterior lobe. Instead of that, they are secreted from the hypothalamus part of the brain. Some of these cells of hypothalamus become secretory nature. They are called neurosecretory cells, and along with conveying a message, they secrete certain chemical hormones which are carried to the posterior lobe, and when it is required, they are released from them. So that is called oxytocin and vasopressin. The area present in this which secretes oxytocin is called supraoptic nucleus, and this area, which is present just on the 2 sides of the brain ventricle, it is called paraventricular nucleus. It secretes the vasopressin or antidiuretic hormone. Now let us see the action of these 3 hormones. What is that? Muscles are there. One, the cardiac muscles which are present in the wall of heart. One, the skeletal muscles which are present attached with a skeleton, a bone, which are used for movement. And then smooth muscles. Smooth muscles are present at some very specific areas. For example, mammary gland, wall of scrotum, wall of alimentary canal and wall of blood vessels. So wherever there is smooth muscle cell. Oxytocin hormone causes contraction of smooth muscles. It is helpful at 3 stages. You might have seen that if you visit a dairy in the morning, sometimes some cows and buffaloes do not release milk. At that time, the milk person just inject them with an injection, and after 2-3 minutes milk comes out. That injection is actually oxytocin. Nowadays a lot of debates is there that this oxytocin, concentration of oxytocin may come in the blood, in the milk itself, and it may cause a problem to our health, but the practice is going on. So at the time of milk secretion, oxytocin is secreted, which causes the contraction of mammary gland to release the milk. At the time of fertilization, the sperms are left in the vagina, whereas the ovum waits the sperm in the middle part of fallopian tube. So just at the time of fertilization, what happens? Oxytocin hormone is released and it causes contraction in the smooth muscles like peristalsis in this fashion. So this way the sperm cells are carried up to the ovum. At the time of childbirth also oxytocin hormone is released, which causes the actual labor pain, and they cause the contraction of the smooth muscles of the uterus in this fashion. So the fetus comes out. The second hormone of posterior pituitary is vasopressin. Vasopressin means it presses the blood vessels, so increases the blood pressure for a short time, and it is also helpful at the time of urine formation. You know, in the uriniferous tubules, in the glomerulus, in the Bowman's capsule, about 100 ml glomerular filtrate is formed per minute. But here about 1 ml urine is formed. About 80 ml water is reabsorbed in this area into the surrounding blood, because this part is freely permeable to water. This part is not freely permeable to water, but it is made permeable by the action of vasopressin hormone of the posterior pituitary for a short time. And when it becomes permeable, more water is reabsorbed. So there are two conditions. Let us see, suppose in a hot summer, much more water is lost from our body with perspiration or sweating. Amount of water decreases in the blood. There are certain osmoreceptors in the wall of blood vessels. They carry the message to the posterior pituitary. More ADH is released and it causes the distal tubule made permeable for water. More water is reabsorbed, less water loss takes place along with urine. There is one more condition. Suppose in a party we eat some spicy food and it causes irritation in our tongue. Then we take 3-4 glasses of water or 3-4 glasses of thumbs up. Amount of blood is increased in the blood. Amount of water is increased in the blood. The osmoreceptors send the message to posterior pituitary. Less ADH is secreted. So the tubules remain impermeable for water reabsorption. Less water is reabsorbed, so more water is lost along with urine. So this way the posterior pituitary hormone vasopressin keeps a control on water content of our body. Now comes the number of anterior pituitary. Anterior pituitary secretes 8 hormones, and for controlling those 8 hormones, the hypothalamus part of the brain also secretes 9 hormones, which are called releasing hormones or inhibitory hormones, which we will talk on the next one. Thank you very much.